welcome to the Salt Lake City Council work session for August 19th. Our meetings are public, and you're welcome to join us in person or by watching the council agenda page using Zoom, YouTube, or SLC TV. We hope you will continue to join us in whichever manner you feel the most comfortable. This is a work session, and during which there is no public comment. You can join us tonight during our 6 p.m. Formal meeting to share your comments. We, of course, welcome your feedback anytime by mail to P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114. You can also email us at council.comments@slc.gov. You can also leave us a comment in our 24-hour phone line at 801-535-7654. Comments we receive on agenda topics are shared with council members and posted in our website, slccouncil.com. Our first agenda item for today is an informational Power District transportation study. Nick Tarvett, Council Deputy Director, is going to join us at the table. Ted Knowlton from Wasatch Front Regional Council Deputy Director, and Brent Crowther, Senior Associate, Kimberly Horn. I butchered every single name, so I apologize. And John Larson at the table as well. Nick.
Okay, thank you for having us here today, I guess, the briefing. I will give a quick intro, and then they have about a 10-minute presentation to run through with the council. They thought it might be better to move through it and then have questions afterwards, but obviously if something comes up that you really want to know, feel free to ask at that point. Again, this is a briefing from a study from the Wasatch Front Regional Council about the Power District Transportation Study. It's an analysis of transportation options in and up to 1 mile around the Power District located along North Temple between about 215 and 1000 West. The study aims to inform decision-making for projects that enhance multimodal connectivity, both to the site and within the study area. The council is not being asked to do anything on this. This is simply informational at this time, but in the future there are many projects that they'll discuss that the council may take up. So with that, I'll turn the time over to you.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Ted Knowlton with Wasatch Front Regional Council. Great to be with you. Really excited to share with you the outcome of this study, which is really a plan that brings together all of the players that you would want to have involved if you're gonna address transportation needs in the changing and to continue to change western part of the city in and around the Power District. So how do I just say next slide or, okay. Next slide if you would. We're gonna go over the status of the project, talk about some of the recommendations, and then open it up for questions. We'll aim to keep that to be about 10 minutes if you'll go to the next slide. Now the first thing to note here is that I'm with WFRC. We managed the project, but we managed it on behalf of a great partnership. So we had Salt Lake City was core to this effort, as was the Utah Department of Transportation, UTA, the key developer for the Power District itself, the Larry H. Miller Company, the State Fair Park, including UFair, was engaged in this effort as well. So it was really kind of a broad partnership coming together to explore what makes sense. And that's notable. And then go to the next slide. Well, I'll show you, we call it the Power District Transportation Study, but it's really not just about the Power District development itself. It's that plus the surrounding neighborhoods. So think of it that way. And then let me go to the goals of the project, which I think are really unusual. So if you'll go to the next slide, it includes things that you would expect to see, as in, if you'll look at those list of objectives, you start on the lower right, enhance regional access for roads and transit. Yes, we are looking out for that. But we started with the predominant objective: how do we create a vibrant power district And then very closely coupled that with how do we strengthen existing business and support existing neighborhoods. So it's both about growth and protecting existing areas. Put another way, it's about place, the quality of the place, and how you get to and from the place. And that's not a typical way of approaching a transportation project. That drove the recommendations that you're about to see. And I just think it's a testament to the partnership that came together here. Now, I failed one little component of the introduction, which is that the funding from this predominantly came from a state appropriation. I don't want to forget that. So want to recognize the state legislature in that role. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Brent Crowther, our lead of our consultant team. And Brent did a fantastic job on this, and I'm just going to walk you through projects. Keep track of your comments and questions, and then we will end with a little bit of next steps and then open it up to questions. Brent?
Great, thank you. If you go to the next slide, please. Our project list was developed in coordination, as Ted mentioned, with a steering committee, a technical advisory committee from UTA, UDOT, Salt Lake City, UFair, those, I'm probably missing a couple, that were listed there on the front page. And we had several workshops throughout the project to help us identify needs and then help us to brainstorm projects. It was a very collaborative process. We came up with about a couple of dozen projects that you can see listed there. We just want to highlight on about 8 or so of the projects that are instrumental to Salt Lake City and that requires that coordination with other partner agencies. And just note that our final report is on the verge of being distributed. Just have a couple final touches coordinating with some stakeholders, and then that will be distributed within the next week or so, and the project is concluded at that point. If you go to the next slide, please. The ones that we want to talk about here today, well, as Ted mentioned, that the study area included about a 1 mile radius surrounding, and we have several different categories of projects. You can see some are focused on multimodal roadways, street connectivity. We have I-80 and I-15 interchange connectivity. Some are focused on UTA, both operations and infrastructure enhancements. And then we have active transportation. And then we have a category focused on the Jordan River Trail. This particular is from an online map that we have that you can view all those projects and zoom in on those specific opportunities. If you go to the next slide, please. The projects that I'll highlight briefly here, starting with Navajo Street, and then we'll work on the list there. So if you go to the next slide. The Navajo Street extension is a project that will run from the Power District south over the existing railroad track and connect into the Second South Corridor. This is really an important project to provide that connectivity from the south, from those neighborhoods from the south. The other thing that this project does is it enables us to implement a very robust transit system, extending the Route 2 and UT service west to the Power District and then over those railroad tracks and directly into the Power District. This will require a new bridge structure over the Union Pacific and the Patriot Rail corridor. If you go to the next slide, please. This is an illustration of what that vertical profile would look like, crossing both of those railroads and connecting from the Power District on the right side of your slide into Second South on the west side of the slide with that bridge highlighted in the red brackets. Go to the next slide. Second project is focused on South Temple. We recommend extending South Temple both to the east of the Power District, connecting into 10th West, and then also west of the Power District, connecting into the Orange Street area. And this particular depiction is on our extension east. Really also provides another local street connectivity. This would be bicycle and pedestrian focused as well, with full active transportation facilities as well as allow vehicle connectivity into the Power District. If you go to the next slide, this is a depiction of what that would take with that bridge crossing over the Jordan River and then connecting up into 10th West. It's relatively flat, so a fairly minor structure to cross the Jordan River. If you go to the next slide. This illustrates the South Temple West connection from the Power District West into Orange Street, and this would be a project that would be implemented as the area redevelops. The current corridor is not fully developed. There are some parking lots and some industrial areas. So this is a project of opportunity as the area has a potential to expand and redevelop. That allocation for the right-of-way extending to Orange Street should be considered.
Brent, if you don't mind, part of the reason why we focused on new connections is that it has a lot of benefits. It means that we don't have to widen as much. Widening is super expensive. It can create environments that people don't want to walk and bicycle on. And so a new connection is great for road drivers, but it also shortens distances for pedestrians and bicyclists. So anytime you can provide a new connection, it tends to be a multimodal benefit.
If you go to the next slide, please. I thought I hid this one. We weren't going to focus on this one. This is another one. We have focused on I-80 and 215 connections into the Power District. This is a new tunnel that would come out of the Power District, go underneath the off-ramps, and then underneath Redwood Road and connect directly into the I-215 interchange. Go to the next slide. Looks like all of our slides that were hidden are not hidden anymore. So if you go to the next, we won't spend time as we'll get through these. If you go to the next slide, please. Let's go to the next one as well.
Yeah, that one would be purely a UDOT project. So.
Right. Okay. I do want to spend a couple minutes on this next one, 200 South, 650 West. This is a new grade separation crossing on 2nd South next to the UTA current headquarters and next to Salt Lake Central. This is a really important project, again, from that connectivity. UTA is unable to provide frequent, reliable bus service on 2nd South going west of the railroad because of the railroad crossing and the delays that are introduced by the railroad. If you go to the next slide, the space here is very tight. To construct a grade-separated crossing. We've come up with a somewhat innovative concept that goes underneath the railroad instead of over the railroad. That gets us the clearance. It's a fairly steep project, about 8 or 9, so it does require a bit more engineering, but a vehicle would come west off of 6 West, go underneath the railroad, and then buses that are trying to access the bus terminal there would use the outside lane. You can see it loops around in between the railroad there in that loop area where that red area is, and then into Salt Lake Central. And you can see a profile on the next slide of what that might look like. As you can see, about 9% grade coming underneath the railroad and then popping back up. There are lots of considerations still, making sure that we're accommodating access for each of the adjacent parcels, that we're working through some coordination with Salt Lake City and with UTA on this project. So something to continue to be explored, but it's an important project to enable that high frequency bus service into the Power District along 2nd South. If you go to the next slide, please. Another UTA-focused project is a track staging area. We want to make sure we have opportunities for as many people to use tracks for event as a concert or a major league ball game of that nature. As we've looked for those opportunity areas, the North Temple area near 2240 West has a very wide right-of-way. It's been contemplated that area as another infill station in the past for a track station. It has a very wide outside of the right-of-way as well. And as we've laid this out, it has opportunity to put a parallel track next to the existing track so that you can stage several trains It's within 5 minutes of the power district, so when the game ends or the concert ends, those trains can be staged and they can rapidly get to Power Station and the Fair Park Station to maximize the number of people who have conveniently and quickly utilize transit to get into and out of the area. Go to the next slide. We will skip over this one as well. This is also another UDOT project. Skip over this slide. Number 9A is a mobility hub project that would be located at the power district. We've been working with Salt Lake City to identify location and amenities, also coordinating with the Larry H. Miller Company as part of their development, but really provides a location where they can get to transit buses and have some community amenities associated with that mobility hub.
I'll do a quick interjection on this, that sometimes when you get a project like this and it has a lot of partners, you don't know, well, what did that really mean to have a lot of partners? This was one of these projects where there were elements where there was a deep dive. And this is one of these projects where it was Salt Lake City, John and Susan representing your interests as a council, made it clear, look, this is an important need and issue for Salt Lake City. And the partnership internalized it, and Brent and his team worked very closely with Salt Lake City staff and the Larry H. Miller team to work out the details and come to, agreement at this level about what made sense and how to proceed. And this is just sort of a testament that the partnership is not surface level on this.
Go to the next slide, please. This project represents a parallel project to that mobility hub. Previously, the mobility hub had been contemplated as both a place for transfer for passengers as well as an end-of-line facility. Listening to the needs and some of the issues identified by the Larry H. Miller Company, we've recommended to disconnect or separate the end-of-line functions where the bus layover, bus charging, operator restrooms, things like that, from the mobility hub where the passenger has more of the focus. And this particular mobility hub location that we've identified in conjunction with the UFair is located just east of Redwood Road off of North Star Drive. So there's some complexities that still need to happen, including a potential land swap. Part of the land is owned by Salt Lake City, part of the land is owned by the state of Utah. But we feel like this gives us a really good launching point to accommodate the needs of UTA to expand operations to the power district, as well as providing for that mobility hub located next to the power district.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, we've already had some conversations with Public Lands. What's shown here is definitely not going to be the final product. It's just kind of a worst case starting point as far as the footprint. We expect that we'll be able to get something that's a lighter footprint and have much better integration into the park.
Go to the next slide, please.
Well, and we just have 2 slides left, just to give you a sense of where we're at. This is not a small budget to get these things done. We don't have all of this money lined up. We haven't gone over every project here today, and through Nick can absolutely get you the full draft for your review. I hope what you've gotten a sense of is that this is a really comprehensive plan. It covers local needs, it covers regional needs, it covers driving, transit, walking, and bicycling. It balances the needs for growth and seeks to preserve existing quality of life. We're really proud of this, and there's a lot of work to go, right? Part of it is identifying the funds and prioritizing appropriately. Go to the next slide if you would. It's sort of like we all come together to develop this shared plan, and then we take the baton and we move it into our own sphere. So that includes that you as a city would take the city-owned pieces, if you will, and think about how do we advance them? How do we integrate them into our plans? What are our funding opportunities and constraints? Likewise, Larry H. Miller would do that with their development. WFRC, working with UDOT, UTA, and Salt Lake City, would integrate recommendations into the regional plan and seek to pursue funding for them as well. And that we keep working as a partnership to advance the great outcomes that I think that this plan can deliver. So there's a lot to go, but it's a great platform, I think, for us to work on these next steps. And Councilmember Pui, that's our presentation. We'd be happy if you have time and interest to explore questions that you might have.
Council members, Councilmember Dugan.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Brent, for the presentation. I appreciate the in-depth on this area, and I fully support the area needs some multimodal transportation on the safety side of the house, moving people and allowing access. But I am concerned that, first of all, it's based on an assumption that we get a baseball team. I'm not sure what the assumption is on some of these projects, not all of them, but there's a big assumption. They wouldn't be giving this money if we didn't have a team there, granted. I'm not sure what the assumptions are of the traffic impacts of that team, or is it a 30,000 for 86 home games, or is it 7,000 for home games? Because I look at the west side or the east side, University of Utah and the hospitals, we have 100,000 people going there every day, and we don't have a plan as developed as this one. And they've been doing it 5 days a week for 100 years. So I look at that and go, wow, we have a lot of focus here on that one power district development. All the city stuff, I love it, because we do need to have that across the city, and I'm always for that. My second point, and you kind of mentioned it on the 200 under 8th grade, 8 to 9% grade, steep. If you were going to go over, that would be steep. And I think you have a PED bridge going over, and I'm not sure what the grade on the PED bridge going over, but if that's 8%, people are going to go run across the railroad tracks. They do it over on the Beltway on the west side. They don't take the stairs. They just run across the 4-lane freeway because they don't want to go up and down. And that's been studies have told us they'll do the easiest way. So that's a concern there, and the cost of that. And then my second is that this is I love it, but we're also doing a study, the East-West connections with federal money on the connecting the east and the west side across all avenues. And if we fail to look at that along with this, we're missing a boat, because we're eliminating one railroad crossing here. There's 5 more that would eliminate all these and still be able to go that, because without that, all the traffic that's not going across on 900 South and 800 South on the south side will be taken 200, and the transportations are not going to get any better on 200 South. They're going to get actually worse, and that's going to be the only best avenue vice the south side. So I appreciate this side of the house, but unless we look at them both together, we're going to confuse our neighborhoods, and they're looking at, we're working with them to get their impact on it. I'm not sure how much you've worked with the neighborhoods and the residents on this study, because it seems like this was maybe a quicker study than the other one, because it's a year long, and that's my concern. We're going to throw this at this side of the house, and we have a lot more to do across the board.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up the West-East connection study. That's much more broad and comprehensive, and coincidentally, Brent's actually the project manager on that as well, so that helps with the project coordination. But yeah, we see any recommendations that come out of this study as just good information that can funnel into the West-East connection study for further vetting and analysis together with the community. So, and this was purely a technical analysis, which I see as kind of a starting point, kind of like what they were saying for, further vetting, public engagement, et cetera. And so this is kind of almost like like the second south undercrossing, it's almost like supplemental information that can then be taken for consideration in that more broad and comprehensive study. Because one of the things that we recognized is that if we did move ahead with the recommendation out of the bigger study to bury the tracks, then all of the at-grade crossings would be at grade, right? They'd stay at grade, I guess, yes, because a rail would be below grade. So then this project would be moot, right? But maybe the recommendation is, well, that's going to take us 50 years, and this is still worth doing in the meantime. Or, I don't know yet. That's something that we'll work through together.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, because I look at some of the bigger things based on having a stadium there, and I want to make sure. I've always told the University of Utah, if you're going to grow, you need to grow the transportation plan at the same time. You can't grow and then wait for your transportation. But in this case, I don't want to do projects unless we have a stadium. And then I want to make sure that the assumptions of the stadium are really proper on number of fans. And that's a big what if out there in, crystal ball.
If I could just add, almost all of the projects, and I can think of maybe one that are good regardless if it's a baseball stadium or not. They provide connectivity, enhance safety for active transportation. So regardless of what ends up going, if it's a ballpark or if it's office or residential, these projects have a benefit to that area to establish connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods and to the region.
Yeah, and I agree there. I looked through all of them, and I totally agree on that side of the house. There's so much great stuff there. It's just that making sure that these are not in their own stovepipe, and then they don't agree, and they're misaligned, and then we're wasting money on both ends and not getting what we really actually want, which is good connection for the East and West, and making sure that we have people who can move about this city freely in whatever mode they want.
Thank you. It seems like many of the people sitting here are also involved in the reconnecting communities, and ultimately solving some of these issues go beyond the study. There are issues that have been created for decades and decades. So I'm excited to discuss this. Councilmember Petro.
Thank you. I know this is my second bite at the apple with you all, so I just want to put on record here. I want to live in the world where transit use can be that reliable. But will you help me remember, what is our current rate of transit use in that area? 7%, I think I remember you telling me?
I'd have to look that up, but that sounds about right.
And then this study, as presented, the scenarios depended on 20%?
So there was a separate traffic analysis done by Larry H. Miller that made some assumptions about up to 20% for event traffic.
So I just want, our neighbors will disproportionately suffer if we put a good idea out there without understanding everything that needs to follow. This is incredible data. The analysis is fantastic, but I think sometimes we as the policymakers forget about the implementation dots that need to be connected in order to make it a reality. That requires a substantive investment that we have not seen in a utility that we don't come close to owning or even influencing. So by accepting these scenarios or working towards those scenarios, we are committing to either advocacy work, collaboration that gets the entity in charge of transit to invest, or understanding that we are going to be on the hook if we want to see the usage. Otherwise, the West Side will continue to die under PM 2.5 and gridlock if we don't. So I don't think it's the onus of the study to solve that problem, but I do think it's one of those things that we need to put on the public record and make widely understood before we get really excited about the likelihood. I also don't love the Orange Street, the South Temple over to Orange Street extension, namely because people will try to turn left there or turn right to get out of traffic when they're waiting. That Redwood crossing over the highway is already terrible, and we don't have anything except like torn down buildings there right now. And they're going to get stuck in an L that takes them up to North Temple, where they're forced to make a right-hand turn, and they're going to be making U-turns on North Temple. It's going I'm not a fan of that extension in any configuration. So.
Some members? Just quick note. Certainly there's some very exciting, potential projects there. Some of those are just game changer for the west side, regardless of what happens with the power district. And certainly it will be amazing for the power district, but it will be amazing for the community as a whole. I was interested to learn a little more about this bridge on Navajo over the train tracks that you presented, and how do you came up with the decision that it's Navajo, the street that needs that bridge? And so a little curious about that. I'm sure that there is a reason for that. And then a little more, so this, study highlighted 2 crossings, at-grade crossings right now. Well, the Navajo is not really an at-grade crossing, but let's call it that. And the 200 South, and removing 200 South to be separated. I think that will be a big deal for the community. As I hope that there is a priority, and I think that you mentioned there is a priority of things. I certainly would love to see something that major happen on the community, because that again will be you are poking a hole on something that is a concrete barrier that is affecting my neighbors every day. Probably right now there is people stuck on that train tracks for 30, 40 minutes at a time. But a little more information about Navajo and how do you come up with that, deciding Navajo as a street?
Yeah, why Navajo was selected as opposed to some of the others. Yeah, that was in collaboration with Larry H. Miller and their site plan and what their street grid looks like, and then looking at the spacing of the streets, trying to identify streets that have the opportunity, enough space. I think is a Pueblo maybe, that maybe just south of there, not quite enough room to be able to connect into that. So kind of looking at combination of site plan and where do we have room to actually touch down for a grade separation.
And my question for that, I think that, I'm curious a little more about it, because certainly this bridge will go over the train tracks, which is a big deal. And then you're creating another hole in this barrier going north-south, right? But then what it seems like it may happen is you end up and almost in a dead end again, right? You end up on a dead end with North Temple and within basically within a project. You're in the middle of Larry H. Miller's Power District project. And to me, it seemed an interesting choice, knowing that we have some big corridors already, that they are well established, and they could be a benefit for the Fair Park as a whole, being 10th West or some other street. But it seemed interesting of a choice. Certainly, I welcome the thought already and the project. And this is a vehicular bridge, is for vehicles.
Vehicles would be allowed on it. It would have a heavy transit focus as one of the big purposes, as well as it would have sidewalks and bicycle facilities.
I see. We're good? Okay, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time. Moving on the agenda, we're going to do some shifting of the items. Now we're going to be moving to item number 4. This is the Ali Vacation at approximately 373 West American Avenue, and it's a follow-up conversation. We're going to welcome at the table Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, and Megan Booth, Principal Planner. Brian?
Thank you. This is a follow-up to the January 7th briefing on this item. It's been a few months, and so we're going to refresh your memories on what the project is and update you on what's happened since the January briefing. And I'll turn it over to Megan.
Good afternoon, Council. I'll just run through this presentation pretty quickly because you have seen this before. So as Brian mentioned, Ali Vacation at 373 West American Avenue. Next slide. So the request is to close and vacate the alley to facilitate the redevelopment of the site. All 5 adjacent property owners are in support of the request. There is background there about a court-granted quiet title claim in 2022. It does remain under public ownership until a decision is made by the council, and there is a notice being held in escrow in the city attorney's office. Next slide. So here's some photos of the site. Next slide. Go ahead, next slide. I'm skipping over some things. Policy considerations for alley vacation are lack of use, public safety, urban design, and community purpose. Next slide. We'll go ahead and skip over these because it does meet those intents. It's part of a future connection for the station area plan. Next. We can skip over this slide as well. Next. Okay, and this is where we left off. So when an alley borders a single-family or duplex property, the city vacates and divides it, transferring the ownership to the property owners. For non-residential or multifamily properties, the city may close or sell the land at market value to the abutting owners. However, in this case, the applicants propose to do a land swap for an easement along the proposed orange line. Next slide. And so we have received the appraisal, and it was prepared for American Avenue acquisition, the property owners in Salt Lake City, vacating 1,417 square feet of city-owned alley, that is bisecting the development site and granting 2,227 square feet pedestrian easement along the site eastern edge. Both the alley and the easement have the same appraised value of $65,000. The alley vacation will improve the site development potential, and it does support the highest misuse. Again, as that vacated alley runs into the viaduct, and the pedestrian easement aligns with the city's connectivity goals and the future development of the orange line. It does not significantly diminish the property value. And the exchange is essentially equal in value from an appraisal standpoint. So I took a snippet and pasted it there so you can see. Next slide. So again, our recommendation was to follow the recommendation of the Plan Commission, approve the alley vacation. There are a few conditions in place. I did want to mention that the property is slated to be rezoned to MU11, and there is not a requirement for special treatments along the tracks line. However, trails and pedestrian paths will be developed as part of the Orange Line development. A note on condition 3, that was a recommendation from the city attorney's office to allow time to finalize ordinance and complete the transaction for the alley property and the proposed easement. And next, that's my presentation.
Council members? Councilmember Mano.
So I'm just looking at the Planning Commission's conditions. Can you go over any of those? And it seems like they are incorporated into what we're seeing right now.
Yes, they are. They are the same conditions. If you can go back to 2 slides on the staff recommendation, they were all listed. And I can go over them individually. I'm happy to do that.
Then my second question is there do we have any development plans for the project and understand what things might be taking place in terms of activating what we think will be a pedestrian corridor along the future tracks line?
So we do not have any development plans to date. So I know we talked about that in the last council meeting, and since the MU11 ordinance doesn't require any design requirements adjacent to the tracks line, we would have to not make that a condition of the alley vacation, but it would have to be a development agreement.
Okay, I mean, I guess my question, I think it seems as in contrast to other alley vacations that we have seen, it does seem like we're getting the public is getting something for the vacation of the alleyway. So in that sense, I'm more supportive of this than I think I am of even other alley vacations that I have voted for. So I appreciate that. But I do think that in this project, activation of, assuming that Trax lane goes in and that there's a pedestrian walkway along it, activation of that pedestrian corridor seems important. So is there another point at which we'll be able to
The applicant is
see
here.
that?
They would like to join. You can come up.
Yeah, sure. If you have any thoughts on that specific piece, I'd love to hear them.
You just gotta hit the middle.
Hi, Justin Earl with the development team. Yes, we've had conversations with you, Planning Commission, this body, and we've heard the request. All of our concept designs do activate that eastern side. We haven't submitted an application with that concept because we didn't know if this alley would be transfer or swap would be approved or not. But we have every intention. I mean, I don't know what you can do with an intention, but every concept that we've worked with and drawn and designed activates that. We think it's a nice. It's not the front of the project, but it's certainly a front of the project. It's a public-facing face that we want to beautify and activate.
I appreciate that. But is there, I think it's Megan, right? I think you were saying that there was another point in the future that is our body or the Planning Commission will see the project and be able to work on a development agreement for those things, or will?
So what I'm saying is that as the orange line is developed, trails and pedestrian paths along this easement and the design of that will be part of the development of the orange line. But when we're talking specifically about this development, if we want to require like street level design standards on that eastern facade, there's nothing in the MU ordinance that requires that. So we would need to have a development agreement that specifically requires that.
I see, okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
I think so. And so that would need to be done now, if that's something that we wanted to do, would be to have that development agreement in place at this point in time. I guess maybe a question for the applicant, if you're amenable to something like that, or if we feel, and maybe for planning staff, if that feels like we're asking for more.
Generally, we don't want to get into development agreements till we know what the full project is. But if it was specific to one item of, hey, let's make sure there's activation on the east side, rather than a much more comprehensive, I think we're open to that.
Yeah, I think that's all I'd be looking for is just along that east side. And I would even be open for something like, if we find, Nick has a solution maybe.
So the development agreement can be structured to address the exact same thing. So basically it would say something like whatever the council wants to include in that. And then the actual vacation of the alley wouldn't become effective until there's some development plans or something submitted and approved that comply with the whatever conditions you put in a development agreement.
I mean, and I think it would just be that we have similar language in other places, right, where there's a pedestrian requirement. We say the first 25 feet or whatever needs to not be parking lot or something like that.
Yeah, we have some things. Usually it's focused on, and we've done this with some mid-block walkways where we've required some activation. That's something that's usually a condition of approval of a project, but that's because it's not necessarily in our code. That's only done if they have to go through a planning process. So when it's not a public street, then we have to add something to deal with that. So for example, the S line in Sugar House, that zoning did have some requirements for activating, at least having some use facing the S line trail.
Okay, so if in the future we actually find out that this is going to be developed into a Trax line with the pedestrian walkway, at that point all the properties would be required to have some activation?
So if there's something in the code that says that, then yes. So normally what we do, we would identify what that corridor is, where that trail is. If it's not already along a street with frontage, then we would add something to our code that would say a certain percentage of the ground floor along this trail, because like the Folsom Trail is probably a very similar situation where it's not street frontage. Then that's where we would add something that would require a certain percentage of the ground floor be activated with some use.
I guess I'd like to see that. I also, if the answer is let's wait to see if that UTA project actually happens and address it at that point, and that's the more appropriate time, I'm open to that as well.
Well, so if the orange line does happen, we may not be able to hold a private developer to things that are outside of that. So we could get the easement for it, but as far as activating a trail space, we probably couldn't do that unless we had something in our
Let's
code.
just do it now, I think. Maybe maybe the option is to just try to incorporate some of that language now.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe what I'd ask is that maybe the applicant developer could work with our staff to just come up with potential language for something like that. I think what I'll say is, again, this as an alley vacation, in exchange for this easement, we're already getting more than we typically would get for an alley vacation. So I'm supportive of it, but if there's some way we can work that out now, I'd like to see that. So let's just maybe, Mr. Chair, if it's okay if we just come back, ask them to work on that a little bit and give us a bit more information.
Yeah, I think that we can do that.
Is that okay?
Okay. I think that sort of gives direction. Thank you for the time. I think that sort of concludes this item. We're going to be moving on to item number 6, another shuffle on the agenda, and this is the ordinance zoning map amendment at approximately 247 North, 800 West. Coming at the table, Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, or staying at the table, rather, Seth Rios, Principal Planner, and Aaron Barlow, Senior Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proposal to rezone 2 properties that share the same address that you mentioned from their current R1 7000 or single-family residential and SR3 special development pattern residential to R1 5000, another single-family residential zone, and SR3 as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Aaron and Seth.
Okay, so I'm just gonna run through these zones that are proposed for the rezone and then talk about some similarities and differences in them. Where do I? Just say next slide. Oh, next slide. So right now, the property owner has 2 parcels, and the front parcel close to the street is zone single family, and the parcel in the back is zone SR3, which is a medium density infill development zone. And so the request is basically just to expand the SR3 zone a little bit into the backyard area, and the intent is to eventually be able to provide some infill development behind this existing home. And they have stated that they intend to preserve this existing single family home, and it'll still be zone single-family residential. So staff is recommending approval in line with Planning Commission's recommendation. Next slide. So this is an aerial image just to show the existing back part that has the lines through it. That's SR3 right now. And the red line shows where they're wanting to extend it to allow this infill development in the future. And the front portion would be rezoned from R1 7000 to R1 5000. So it would still remain single-family residential. Next slide. So I do just want to go through some photos to give some context of the neighborhood and surrounding area. This is a photo of the front of the house. It's a single-family home. It's kind of on a small lot, has a small front yard. Next slide. And this is a photo of the rear of the property from Hoyt Place. Like I said, there's 2 parcels, and this is the area that would potentially be developed in the future with the SR3 zoning. Next slide. So just to provide some context of the neighborhood, this is the side of the street that the home is on, looking towards the south. You have some mixture of housing types on this street: duplexes, single-family homes, apartment buildings. Next slide. And this is looking north. You see across the street, it's the old elementary school, and then again, different housing types all along the street. Most of the homes are on smaller lots. They have smaller front yards with a big landscape median in the middle of the street. Next slide. And then this is what Hoyt Place looks like right now. Not much development going on right now. Next slide. And like I mentioned, south neighbor is a 8-unit apartment building, and the north neighbor is a duplex. So there's quite a variety of housing types on this entire block and across the street. Next slide. So first I'm going to go through some of the things that would not change with the rezone request. The first thing being that the height will remain the same. The maximum building height is the same in all 3 zones. The front yard setbacks are the same across all zones, and then the parking context would remain the same with the same parking requirements. So you'd have the parking context for residential in the front, and then for the medium infill development in the back. So that would all remain the same across these 3 zones. Next slide. One of the main differences between the SR3 zone and the R1 7000 zone is the housing types that are allowed. So R1 7000, R1 5000 are single-family zones, and they only allow single-family detached structures. The SR3 zone, as I mentioned, is an infill development zone, medium density. So it allows a few more housing types like duplexes, twin homes, and detached single-family dwellings. It also allows detached single-family as well, just on smaller lots. Next slide. So that leads me to what would change if a rezone was approved. The SR3 zone, because it's an infill development zone, it has different setback requirements that make it easier to do infill development. So an example of this is slightly smaller side and rear yard setbacks, and then smaller lot width requirements and minimum lot sizes. And this just makes it so that it's possible to have infill development. Next slide. So anytime we look at a rezone request, we review the citywide plans and the neighborhood plans to see what they say and what they recommend for these types of requests. So starting with the citywide plan, Plan Salt Lake, that plan promotes moderate density. It does stipulate that it should be compatible with the context of the surrounding neighborhood. It should fit into the area. And it promotes infill development in general. Housing SLC is another citywide plan that is, talks about the goals for promoting home ownership opportunities and allowing additional density citywide. And then the specific neighborhood plan is a North Temple Boulevard plan, and that plan talks about promoting infill development in mid-block areas. The photo that's shown here on the screen is actually taken from the plan, and it talks specifically about this block and allowing for infill development along Hoyt Place and along the interior portion of this block. So it does promote infill development, and it supports the rezone request. Next slide. A requirement for rezones is that they have to provide some type of community benefit. These are listed out in the city code, and the applicant has chosen to provide community benefit A, which is that it provides housing to meet the future needs of the community as determined by the general plan. This is where the condition in the report comes from. We're proposing a condition that requires the applicant to provide family-sized units, and Housing SLC states that this is units with 3 or more bedrooms. So that is a condition that's recommended, and it will help the applicant meet community benefit A and meet the code requirements. Next slide. So yeah, because of those things, because it meets the zoning standards and it meets the city and neighborhood plans, staff is recommending that the City Council follow the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the rezone request. And that's all I have for the rezone.
Council members? Any? Councilmember Romano?
Yeah, so the R1 5000 piece, I'm assuming, well, tell me if I'm getting this right. That has a house on it, but the lot line would be adjusted to make that lot as small as possible so that there's more property in the SR3 to allow for more development. Is that correct? So does this come with an agreement that that existing house remains?
Yes, as part of the community benefit ordinance as well, there's a tenant displacement requirement that if the home is demolished, they have to replace that home with equal number of bedrooms, which is 5 bedrooms. A lot of bedrooms for a house that size, but it'll have to be like for like replacement if it's demoed.
But there's no preservation requirement on it.
No.
Okay, but the lot would then be adjusted to be, I'm assuming, 5,000 square feet.
Yes.
With the remainder of it going to the SR3. Okay. That's all I needed. Thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
And the parking requirements are the same in both the SR3 and the R1 5000. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out the access to the parking for the SR3 with that L shape. Is it an L-shaped property? Is that what it is? So Hoyt dead ends into that property.
Yeah, that's correct. That would be the access for any development in the SR3 area. When staff kind of reviewed the property in question, it's not really feasible to have traffic passing through, a 10-foot wide driveway.
Yeah, right.
So,
it has to come from Hoyt to get to the SR3 lot.
Yes.
But there's requirement for off-street parking in that.
Yeah, it's 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Okay. And it's a private road, so they have to worry about the fire trucks and everything else. That's their.
Yeah, that's correct. The developers worked through that and has been made some inroads in making sure that's all met.
Okay, thanks.
Quick note. So the frontage of this, potential structure behind this house will be facing Hoyt. So the main entrance to this units will be through Hoyt. Is that correct?
I don't know exactly where the units will be facing. There is due to the nature of the property, a plan development is required for because it's a private road and it's not accessed from a public street. But where this house faces exactly, I assume they want it to face it towards Hoyt. But yeah, it'll have to be accessed from Hoyt.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, there's, I'm asking questions that are they're actually in different stages in the future. I'm just curious, maybe we have the applicant here, maybe he can give us.
Mary Cruz is the owner, and she's on the phone. She's a traveling nurse, and so my name's Dave Robinson. And the question that you had about the private street, yes, Hoyt Place is a private street. It was improved privately, paid for privately as the utilities. There is some real concern with the city's interpretation of some of those things. We've asked the state property rights ombudsman to step in. I believe he sent a letter to the city recently saying we need to discuss those types of things because there's a lot of, there's some real concerns there. As far as your question, does the home face Hoyt Place? So if you look at, we had worked with staff several years ago on doing even though Salt Lake City does not have a master plan ordinance, we did a master plan that ensures fire compliance, adequate utilities, and those things. I have quite a lot of background in plan developments and master plan communities, and we do not like the garages to be facing the street. And so these are all alley-fed homes. You have the phase 1 that's approved, phase 2 that's approved. All those homes face onto a green space. You have a phase 3 that's been submitted for plan development. 3 of the 5 homes face onto green space, and then 2 of the homes face onto the street. This home will actually face east. And you say, well, how does that work? And so, but the way it's designed is the east, because of the size of the lot, taking it down to Darren's question, I believe, bringing the size of the lot to the R1 5000 allows us to provide some good green space and pedestrian access on the east side of those homes. And then we will have some type of barrier that differentiates those. Then on the R15000 lot, we also have planned a 2-car garage with an ADU above it. And then on the question that was on the circulation issue, because of the depths of these lots, your fire access, you would keep your access for the primary existing structure onto 800 West, and then your vehicular access for the home, to the new construction home, would actually come off of Hoyt Place off the private road.
Okay.
There is an interesting component to this as it moves forward, where it's a single-family home lot, but then there's some space next to it that's almost enough to create another single-family lot. And so the applicant would like to do a single-family lot now, identify that one as a future phase, and then work with the neighbor as they combine their efforts, and then create another single-family. So it's a little bit unusual to have a future phase come in such a small project, but it will be identified as that.
Okay. I mean, it's exciting to see something happening in the middle of the block. So I'm generally supportive of this. So any other comments? Okay.
I just want to say thank you for getting creative and actually doing missing middle housing. Like the number of conferences we go to asking us to do this and offering it as a solution, and the number of times we actually see people willing to run the risk of how many people are going to yell at them over the cars that you're going to introduce. I acknowledge what you're doing is difficult, and thank you.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I believe that one of our other projects is in your area, the Riverside Cottages over by the elementary school. And what you see, so at Hoyt Place, there's about 30 different parcels to create 50 single-family homes. And then the one over by the elementary school, there's another, I believe, around 20 single families, and then we have another one, all single families. There's a lot of, the degree of difficulty is pretty high, and I also appreciated in the mayor's state of the city where she said we need to bring families back to the city. And it makes it very difficult to bring them back to the city if you're not providing single-family homes of the appropriate size with safe pedestrian activity, things like that. And so our effort is to really develop these inner blocks as single-family homes. Yeah. And I look forward to meeting with both of you and you.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say as well, we have actual homeowners that have put down escrow payments, is what I understand, on some of these phases at Hoyt Place that are eager to get in. So the more that we can help them achieve their goals, I think they're contributing in a manner that I would echo both of the sentiments of my colleagues.
So coming out of COVID, when we started marketing the phase 1 of Hoyt, we had over 110 reservations on 10 lots. And so but I will tell you, it's nice to add this one to our list of that's available. But the things that I would like to talk to both of you about, and the things that the ombudsman is stepping in, they really need to be addressed before we can bring them to the market. There are some very serious concerns that need to be addressed.
I think that I will take, time to discuss those. Let's focus on this one right now. I think that concludes the time that we have allowed for this item. Thank you, everybody, for the presentation. We're going to do some more shifting on the agenda. We're going to take the break right now. So council members, come back at 3:20. Come back now to resume the meeting. Thank you. we are back online. Now we're going to the old item number 2, which is an ordinance zoning text amendment for the public lands and street vacation of West High School. At the table, we're going to have Nick Tarver is already there, Council Deputy Director, and Grant Aman, Principal Planner, to present on this item. Nick.
All right, so this briefing is on a proposed text amendment in the partial street vacation at approximately 240 West, 200 North, related to the construction of West High School. It should be noted, however, the text amendment portion does apply to all public land zoning districts throughout the city. In February of this year, the council initiated a temporary land use regulation with the proposed amendments that you'll hear today. This petition would make those permanent once or if the council adopts them. With that quick intro, I'll turn the time over to Grant.
Thank you so much. Testing. Hello, council members. My name is Grant Amen. Nice to see you all. Like was discussed, this item consists of 2 city-initiated petitions. Both of them are legislative petitions that require city council approval after recommendation from Planning Commission. The first petition is a text amendment focused on public lands. And then the second is that a street vacation, it would be part of the PL zoning district if it's vacated. Just for quick background information, and we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. These petitions are a result of the high school improvement bond that was approved by Salt Lake City voters in November of last year. As a reminder, the general obligation bond was issued for, quote, the purpose of raising money for constructing and acquiring buildings and furnishing and remodeling and updating existing school property under the charge of the board, unquote. I like to provide that context because there's so many items going on here that it's good to kind of relate it back to that bond that sort of initialized the rest of this. As a result of voter approval, the Salt Lake City Council adopted the TLUR temporary land use regulations during a meeting on February 18th of this year. During that discussion, it was made clear that the intention of the TLUR was to become permanent. The TLUR ordinance outlines the regulations necessary for Salt Lake City School District to move forward with that bond. For this presentation, I will first discuss the text amendment, then the street vacation. The Planning Commission voted to oppose the text amendment, but to support the street vacation. Next slide. All right, first, the proposed text amendments. The text amendments are in line with the temporary land use regulations. The TLUR allows for increased maximum height up to 125 feet for K through 12 public schools in the public land zoning district. It reduces setbacks when the school property is next to non-residential zones. It allows certain school-related obstructions in required yards, for example, things like playground equipment, athletic fields, parking. It exempts K through 12 public schools from the historic preservation overlay provisions. And lastly, it gives the planning director authority to approve modifications needed for health and safety purposes. These provisions granted by the TLUR were given a 180-day deadline. That deadline would be August 26th of this month. So I'm getting close. This petition's proposed text amendment includes the same provisions as before, but now clearly delineated within the relevant sections of municipal code. Next slide. Second, this is the street vacation portion of the item. This petition is proposed in order to enable the school district to further utilize a portion of West High's campus, as it has been for the past few years as part of the approved bond. This portion of West High's track and field is actually still technically part of the public city-owned right-of-way, that is 200 North, according to a lease agreement from 1987. In 1987, the school initiated the track and field that exists today. This lease agreement outlines the approved use for the property, but now would hinder the school's development plan and consolidation of the campus parcels. By vacating this portion of the street, the city would enable the school district to consolidate their property into their campus. The eastern portion of 200 North contains this turnaround that provides access to several properties, and therefore it's important to note that no constructed portion of 200 North will be impacted by this vacation, just that area delineated with a red line. The final boundaries are stipulated as a condition of approval to be approved by the relevant city departments, real estate, engineering. Next slide. Just a little bit of context. This is the zoning map for West High outlined in that dashed line. It indicates that it's adjacent to SR1A in that upper right-hand corner. That's our residential zoning district. And then it's also adjacent to RMF 35, TSA, UCC, CC, and RMU. And then we've already talked today about the mixed-use zone that goes into effect in October. Those applicable zones would be MU5 and MU8 along the south portion there. Next slide. Thank you. Although the briefing today is regarding the text amendment to the zoning ordinance, the focus will be on West High for now, because the TLUR were originally adopted to aid in its construction, and this is how the amendment will apply in practice. These details that you see here were desired by Planning Commission. They did not have them. Now we have them. They're now provided to aid you in your decision making. On the left is the most recent proposal draft that the city has received from the school district. It features a maximum height of 84 feet with a stair tower up to 97 and 98 feet tall. This height is only in that eastern wing that kind of juts out there. The rest of the school property will be anywhere from 18 to 68 feet with various heights in between that I have listed here on the slide. The school district is proposing a setback from the south property line there of 19 feet and 5 inches, and then a front setback of 20 feet. These setbacks, as proposed, conflict with the proposed text amendments listed standards setbacks, which are the same setbacks listed in the TLUR. So I'm going to go to a close-up here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a close-up of those setbacks. You see along that southern edge on the bottom, this portion of the property is abutting future MU5 and MU8, and then you can see that orange strip along the top. Please note the existing utility easement there in orange. Due to this easement, the school district has pushed that southern portion of the school, the athletics complex, into the setback there along the south. And the TLUR, just to reiterate, requires that 30-foot setback and on both the front and side there. Next slide. Another initial concern is a close-up of this vehicular access off of 200 West. You can kind of see that turnaround there. It's existing. There is access to two properties off of it already. And then you'll see that the main parking lot there, the main student drop-off, goes through that existing turnaround point. And then note again the existing utility easement in orange. I have a quote here from that. It's kind of hard to read, but the school district says, consideration is requested due to the unique existing conditions of the site. And then next slide. So the current proposed setbacks do not comply with the standards permitted in the TLUR. However, subsection F is that section that relates to modifications for health and safety purposes. It states that if the modification does not negatively impact the health or safety of the general public or the occupants of the school, then the planning director may modify a regulation. Although the school district can move forward with West High until August 26th, they would still need to request approval from the planning director for those setbacks. And any input or feedback that you all have would be beneficial in this decision. And then next slide. Finally, the two applications are kept separate and being voted on separately. First, the Planning Commission recommended denial of the zoning text amendment. During that meeting on July 9th, they cited concerns over height, size, traffic, parking. They were also concerned because the desired height for West High is lower than the request. Remember, the desired height for West High, we now know, is 98 total. The TLUR and then the text amendment allows for up to 125 feet. And the Planning Commission was concerned over that difference. And then it should again be noted that the impact of this request today is for any K-12 public school in the public land zoning district. And then finally, next slide. Second, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the 200 North Street vacation with the 3 listed conditions in the staff report, which are a requirement for an easement, that the final boundaries will be stipulated, and that 200 North will remain unimpacted, and the final and the new parcel would be consolidated into the overall campus. With that, that concludes my presentation. Isaac is here from the school district. If you have questions, I'm also obviously here.
Council members. So everybody's very quiet. So I think that just a quick note. So there was for the 2 pieces that went to the Planning Commission, one was denied by the Planning Commission, and the other one was approved. The Public Lands District Zoning Amendment is the piece that got denied by the Planning Commission.
Exactly. The text amendment that impacts the public land zoning district was recommended for denial.
And I do have one question that relates to the overall project, maybe not so much about, the street vacation or the other portion, but it relates to the 300 North, between 300 West and 400 West, the southern sidewalk. It's obviously heavily utilized right now. Obviously, the school is in that. Currently is in that location. It seems like in the plan right now, for what I understand right now, is going to be across the street, and there's going to be other facilities for the school in that block. That sidewalk is narrow, very narrow, and the school has a chain link fence very close to the sidewalk, as their property rights probably allow them to do so. And there's always very packed. And I was wondering if there is a possibility to, as part of the negotiations of this, is to make that sidewalk more, better for the school, for the community. That area is growing a lot, and that street is very narrow already, and the sidewalk is very narrow as well. So I was wondering if there was a possibility to improve that space for pedestrians. We have a bike lane now there that is, it's all very well squished together. So that is one of my thoughts generally. I have personally no issues with the street vacation of 200 North. Any other thoughts?
Yes.
Fair?
Thank you. I think the main thing that I heard most of your presentation, not all of it.
Oh, thank you.
The main feedback that I've heard from residents, I would say all the feedback that went to Planning Commission is consistent with what I've heard, but the main thing is the height. I'm guessing that the 98 is required because of the theater, or?
I believe the theater is not in that portion of the building.
Oh, okay. Someone's raising their hands back there too.
Yeah, so we have a representative from the school district here who can probably answer that, but I believe that's actually just a stairwell head or an elevator head.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
That goes all the way up to 90, right?
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac Astle. I'm the Executive Director of Auxiliary Services for the school district and over construction. The original plan was that the school was going to be 6 stories tall, the academic wing. After working with the architects and the fire marshal, we realized real quick that wasn't going to be a great idea. So we adjusted the footprint of the main academic wing, lowered it down to 5 stories, lengthened it a little bit so we didn't lose the number of classrooms. But the 98 feet is the stairwell on the far south or far east side of the academic wing that allows us access to maintain everything up that's on the roof on the top of the 5th sorry, I don't have a picture, but the academic wing is the portion that sticks long ways off towards the east. And then the longer section that goes along Third West is where the admin, commons, cafeteria area are, along with the performing arts and the arts classes and continuing ed are along that west side.
So currently West High, is it 4 floors or 3?
There's 4 stories plus a clock tower.
Okay. And then, so what do you think the height will be now with just 5 stories instead of 6?
So I believe it's 84 feet for the main story, and then that one stair section goes up to that 98 feet to allow us to get up on top of the roof.
Okay. And then do you know how high the clock tower is, just so I can give roughly with residents?
I don't off the top of my head. The other challenge that you've got to consider is that we've got about 11 feet of drop from Second West to Third West, and another 14 feet of drop from Third West to Fourth West. So the elevations don't start at the same height, same point. So that's where a big difference would be.
Okay. Can you talk about, and this, I may have missed this piece, can you talk about what the it's going to look like on Second West? I know a lot of neighbors that are on that street are worried about what that's going to look like. So tell me that.
Like what the material looks like for the building? Or
No, just like what are there going to be entrances and...
So our main entrance to the building is where the academic wing and the west side connect on the south corner. Do you have a pointer? I'm happy to walk up and show you.
I believe it's in that parking lot. Yeah.
The main entrance to the building is right back here. So this is the main parking lot.
I think we probably need to put that. So this is the fun part. So I think if you continue with that, if someone can put it on the record, maybe describe where you're pointing. He's pointing to make sure that the record reflects as close as possible.
Okay. And which streets are where?
Okay, so Third West.
That's Third West. Second West on the right.
Okay.
Third North above.
So the main entrance is to the on the east side of the Capitol campus is what we're. Here we go.
The main
sorry
entrance
about
is
that.
on that eastern side.
Yeah, so the main entrance is here, and then we also have a secondary entrance off of Third West for visitors and students that are being dropped off after the bell has rung on the west side of the same area. So those are the 2 main entrances of the building. I think what your main question is what does it look like up here? This is our
right there, right?
Our child care area.
Okay.
So there's a small entrance and exit for the parents to drop off and collect their kids every day there. This back area is all back of house. If I remember right, it's close to 60 feet off of the property line. And there will be a few parking stalls, and then our continuing education and motor pool, or not motor pool, but auto shop area are over here with their own gated yards to hide it. But then it's we tried to design that it's more of a quiet area, that the students will actually have the best views because it'll be north facing and the sun's easiest to control on the north side. But that's just the academic wing of the students looking out. There's no in and out of that section other than our deliveries for our child nutrition, which they'll pull in here, back up, and then leave out the same area.
Okay, and then, so where the parking lot is, all of that area there along Second West, that's just where all of the houses are, right there, right?
There are homes along here, yes.
Okay, so the parking will be kind of behind those homes?
Yes.
Okay, and then the main way to access the parking lot will be right there? Okay.
Yes, there's already accesses off of Second West, or I'm sorry, Second North, but that we would utilize that it would be a one-way in, one-way out of that main one, and then there's an additional parking area to the south that they would come off here in and then back out.
So will they go in between the two buildings to get onto Third, or will they go all the way down?
No, like I mentioned, there's an 11-foot drop between these two, and we want to delineate, we needed somewhere to delineate traffic flow. So this is for our buses to pull in off Third West, drop off all the kids in a secure area away from the other vehicles, let them unload and go to the buildings that they need to. And then these are our main parking lots, but then there's additional parking across the street that we'll show you in the next phase. And I do want to share that we just presented to the board our most recent updates, and we're going to be having some open houses at both the schools to show examples, drawings, all of that to share with the community September 8th and 9th.
Okay. So sorry, I'm struggling. Let's say I'm coming north on Third West, and I'm headed to school, and I'm going to park in the big parking lot. How do I get there?
You would either, if you're coming north on Third West, you would either go up to Third West over to Second and in, or off of North Temple and Second in. But again, the majority of this is going to be faculty parking.
Oh, okay.
And then there will be a few spots because we don't have this is probably the least parking a high school in the state of Utah will have. We're really constrained on it. So faculty, some student, and then everything else is across the street.
Got it. Okay. So mostly students are going to be parking up in other places.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you want to continue? Do you want to chair?
Sure. Are there other questions about this?
I think, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For those neighbors facing 200 West, and I don't want to speak for your constituents, Mr. Chair, but some of them will have quite a bit of a change, right? They have right now a baseball field, and they're going to have a parking lot, and it's part of a growing city and a bigger amenity for our community, which is an improved high school. I wonder if there is a possibility along the property line, or to do some greenery or some shielding of a heat island of a parking lot that probably no one wants to. And so that would be one of the thoughts that come to mind to respect some of the history of the site a little bit, maybe. And I don't know if you hear this portion of my thoughts about 300 North and the sidewalk. I would love to explore the possibility of getting a little more space for an actual sidewalk in that side that could accommodate a lot of students.
Yes, I did. Thank you. That's a concern of mine too, but just a second.
Yeah. We're dealing with some.
You got it.
We're dealing with some major constraints on this property, and our number one focus is to provide a facility that the kids can maintain until we can move them to the other facility. And unfortunately, that's where this design has come from, is that the most efficient and effective way to do that is to build everything as much as we can on one side and then demolish and rebuild what was lost on the one side to the other. That's the only way we can keep kids in the school during this 7 to 8 year long process. With that said, we understand the concerns of the neighbors. We've heard from a lot of them. You've heard several of our asks throughout this, and we're appreciative of the planning team and your guys' willingness to hear us out. The biggest challenge is that we're limited on space. A school anywhere else would have somewhere between 40 and 60 acres, and we barely have 30 acres split between 3 pieces of property that are split by a major highway and a thoroughfare for the city. That's no one's fault, but it's just the realities of what we're dealing with. We want the most effective facility, the safest facility for the students and the community. We understand that schools are an anchor for a community, and we want to be that anchor for this area. It needs to be rebuilt. We want it to be safe and efficient, which means if we need to talk about, wider sidewalks and things like that, let's talk about it.
Mr. Chair?
Some of the realities we run into is like Second North, we have a lot of utilities under the road, which is requiring us to put the footprint of both buildings that are proposed in locations that we would rather not. But if we tried to put them somewhere else, we would end up demoing all of the utilities along 200 North, which isn't cost effective or a reality for anybody with the funds. So.
Mr. Chair, to clarify, I'm not suggesting to move the building at all, for the 200 North sidewalk situation. I'm talking about 300 West and 400 West, where the old, facility, the old building is, that very narrow sidewalk that is currently there. And as far as the greenery for that parking lot, that is on the new footprint of the school, I wonder if there is a possibility to include greenery on those little islands that the plan has outlined in the plan already. It has these like pockets of what I want to prevent is a Home Depot kind of parking lot. At least there is some greenery growing in between that area that makes that parking lot, maybe without even changing your footprint of the parking lot. And I wonder if there is a way to request for some greenery on that side. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nick Norris.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm not sure if the council's aware of this, but there are some parameters in state code that limit what we can do with schools. They are subject to zoning, but except for those things that are listed in the state code. One of those things is landscaping, so we can't require them to deal with landscaping. And also related to sidewalks, we can't require them to do more than this is what the state code says, reasonably necessary for the safety of school children. So we're kind of limited in both of those instances. That doesn't mean that they can't choose to do those things, but we can't require them to put trees in and things like that. So,
yeah. I think still, I don't know if the plans are that far developed or if that's something that you can keep in mind. I know that residents are gonna raise those same concerns. And I did want to ask for one other question. Is there obviously Third West, as you said, is a state highway. We don't control that road, but is there? It would seem to me that there's going to be probably more kids going across the street now with this plan because you're going to have all of the athletic facilities on the other side.
And parking.
So what other things can be done in terms of that road and crossroads or crosswalks and all that? Is there any opportunity to do more there?
So what we've proposed from the get-go is a sky bridge over Third West.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There is it would connect to the school from the academic side where kids could access it from the second floor of the building and walk over Third West. Now, it's a ad alternate right now, which we've got to see what it comes back at as cost, but we have reached out to UDOT and everybody's in agreement that the best thing we can do is keep kids off of the sides of the street.
Okay, that's great. I haven't seen any of the plans or anything, so I wasn't aware of that, but that's great to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would the school district, Mr. Chair, need some sort of process for this bridge? Because, in other entities, they do.
no, because it's a state road, it's up to UDOT. We don't have any sort of air rights or anything else on state roads.
Is there any changes to Fourth, do you anticipate? Like, I know we've had some students that were hit auto pedestrian accidents on Fourth West as well.
So as far as Fourth West, the design, we're putting almost everything on the east side of Third West.
Yeah.
The only thing that will be on the north side of Fourth is the soccer lacrosse field and a very small parking lot. Okay. On the existing, where the building is now, that would be the softball field, football field, track, baseball field, and some small bleacher areas along with the clock tower for history's sake. But
okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry. Nope. Okay, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move to agenda item number 3, which is changes to zoning incentives for building preservation / adaptive reuse. And with us, we have Brian Fulmer from Council Policy Staff and Amy Thompson, Planning Manager.
Hello, this is a proposal from the administration to update the building preservation and adaptive reuse incentives. You may recall the council adopted an ordinance in July 2024 that provides optional benefits for development projects that preserve eligible buildings. Since then, planning identified some parts of the ordinance that would benefit from clarifications and modifications. I'll turn it over to Amy.
Next slide, please. Thank you. As stated, the council adopted these in 2024. There are 2 tracks to these incentives, just for a quick background. The first one, which we call the A incentives, is primarily a use incentive that allows for land uses that would not normally be allowed, so eligible buildings can be redeveloped for viable uses. And then the second option of the incentives is for preservation of a principal building. These are designed to support developments that include retention or utilization of an eligible building. In this case, eligible buildings are those that are 50 years or older, by allowing flexibility with certain zoning regulations and a streamlined planning process. The B incentives can also be applied to new development on the same development site as an existing eligible building. Next slide, please. Since adoption of the ordinance, the Planning Division has received a number of building preservation applications and several inquiries from potential applicants interested in using the incentives. These are just some of the examples of applications we've issued preliminary approval for. Over the past year of applying the ordinance, we have identified some parts of the ordinance that do need clarification or adjustment to ensure that the ordinance operates as originally intended. Next slide, please. The proposed changes include allowing modifications to design standard through the administrative design review. The scope of alterations eligible for administrative design review was inadvertently limited to additional height for building preservation incentive projects. The second thing that we're looking at updating is the design standards for new construction that are utilizing the incentives, specifically the prohibition of garage doors facing a public street, to clarify that this provision applies specifically to townhomes or single-family attached buildings. The standard is a barrier for certain types of developments, such as multifamily, mixed-use, or commercial buildings that may incorporate structured parking and have limited ability to access parking from the rear side. Next, we are looking at allowing modifications to the maximum lot width through administrative plan development. Currently, we are allowed to modify minimum lot widths through this process. This just captures those zoning districts that also have a maximum setback requirement. Sorry, initially I said lot width, I meant maximum and minimum yards. And then we are looking to make a fix to the restrictive covenant requirement and add some clarifying language. Currently, the language indicates that retention of the eligible building that qualified them for the incentives must be retained for 30 years, but it only applies to projects that utilize the incentives for a new building. The new language would clarify that this applies to any new development, such as if an addition were made to the eligible building, the existing eligible building still has to be retained. And then finally, adding a time extension request allotment. This is consistent with the other land use provisions that we have that allow for time extension requests when they can demonstrate that there hasn't been a change in circumstance or merit application. Next slide, please. The public process for this project just went through the general requirements for this type of application. We did not receive any public comments on this petition. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and forwarded a unanimous recommendation to approve the proposal. Next slide, please. The proposal is consistent with considerations for text amendments. It's reflective of the goals and policies and objectives outlined in adopted city plans. Next slide, please. And that is all I have prepared, but I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Council members. Councilmember Mono.
Thanks, Amy, for presenting this. So if I'm understanding correctly, we're not really changing the incentives in terms of making them more or less attractive. We're changing some of the processes and some specifics to yard widths and things like that. Am I understanding? I mean, that's a really broad way of characterizing it, but would you...
I think we are changing some of the process in that there would be an administrative review allowed, where in some cases currently it would require a planning commission review. So it does make them more attractive in the sense that it continues to further streamline the process for things that we didn't initially capture with the initial proposal.
Okay, in process streamlining, but not necessarily like more units allowed than what would have been already, or
no
additional height or anything like that. Those, I mean, it sounds like for how short this has been in place and how many projects have actually used those incentives, it sounds like they've been fairly productive as compared to some of our other incentive programs. So I appreciate that. Okay, great. That's all my questions.
Just one question.
Yes, Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you. On the extension side of the house, is it just 1 year extension and only the 1 year extension on the, okay.
Yeah, so somebody can request a 1 year time extension. If that were to come up again, that year expiration date, they could then request another time extension of a year, but we couldn't grant a 2 year time extension initially. So it's 1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
1 year, and there's not a maximum number of years, but you just say no at one point, at some point. I'm just saying I don't foresee like a continuously extensions and nothing's going down.
There's not currently a limit on how many times someone can request a 1 year time extension, but we do look to see if the merits of the application, if anything has changed that would warrant a different decision on the application.
Okay, thanks.
You said the piece about the buildings for adaptive reuse is that the building would be protected for 30 years?
Yes. So that's currently a provision that the building needs to be protected for 30 years, but the language right now indicates that it's for projects that utilize them on a new building. So if they have the eligible building and then they also transfer those incentives to a new building on the same development site. But we also want those to apply to, let's say, a landmark site were to build a new addition with some kind of linking feature. So the addition could essentially stand on its own. We still want them to have to retain that eligible building that got them the addition with those incentives to begin with.
Okay. And is there a reason why we're saying 30 years as opposed to longer?
We're not changing the time frame, so that's how it was initially adopted, was 30 years.
Okay. And then in the slides you had I think, is it like the Salt Lake warehouse or something? I don't know what that building's called. So is there a way that like that project, like did these changes come out of that project that incorporated that building, or would that project have happened more quickly if these things had been in place?
Yeah, that project probably, I don't know all the merits of that particular project, but they could have used the incentives and transferred them to the overall new development on the site by retaining the existing central warehouse. In zones like that project is located in, which are typically downtown zones, the main incentive there is a streamlined process, because the other incentives such as additional density or building height aren't really as attractive in downtown zones because those zones are already so permissive. But in other less permissive zoning districts, the incentives are very attractive, not just the streamlined process, but the other things as well.
Is there like a real world example of this, like either these changes came out of a process, a particular example, or can you show us one that would maybe benefit more that's current right now in the city, or do you think is the central warehouse one probably the best?
There was a slide, I don't know who or where the slide controller is, but if you can hear me, if you can go back to, I think it was the second slide in the presentation, there's a number of examples there that are real world examples that used this process. They are smaller scale examples, but the one on the top left is on the old Coco Kitchen site, and they retained the existing commercial building on the corner, and then 2 additional units were permitted in the new construction. The one on the bottom left is the Other Side Academy development. They retained the church in the front there, and then they built new multifamily to the rear of that landmark site. And they got reduced parking requirements, and they didn't have to do a plan development for creating a lot without frontage. And then the other 2 were also a smaller scale examples of the projects that we've issued approval for, but we do have several pending projects as well.
Great. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. We're now on to 7. Okay, great. Number 7 is a resolution for building permit fee waivers for Alliance House and for Step House. And we've got Allison Rowland, Council Policy Analyst. We also have, let's see, it looks like Tammy Hunsaker, or maybe not. Okay, we have Tony Milner, Heather Royal, and is Mike?
I believe Mike Eckerlo and Tammy are here.
Yeah, okay.
Available if needed.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Or we're going to need some more chairs.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Okay, so as you probably recall, Salt Lake City allows building permit waivers for developments, housing developments from nonprofit organizations that provide housing that is less than 80% of the affordable area median income, Alliance House and First Step House have requested these fee waivers for their newest projects. The Alliance House has a development at 1805 South Main Street, which would receive a waiver of just over $40,000. And the First Step House has a development at 44 North and 1000 West, which would receive a waiver of almost $154,000. Both organizations already operate affordable housing developments in Salt Lake City, so this is not the first rodeo for either one of them. And in accordance with code, the director of CAN, Tammy Hunsaker, reviewed these requests and has recommended that the council waivers. Both properties also appear to be eligible for impact fee waivers, which would be processed separately. So this is scheduled for potential action on September 2nd for all of you, but I'll turn it over to Tony and Heather to tell you more details.
Great. Thanks, Allison. And thank you so much for all the additional information that you included in the staff report that kind of spells out this request and about some of the projects as well. If we can advance the slide. Great.
So this is a fairly new process. This is because of recent changes to code updates to 182220. So this is something new where it was written into the code that the housing stability staff will help facilitate and with the administration of the code when nonprofit developers come forward and ask for eligible fee waivers. So bear with us. This is something new for us as well. So basically in code, now that it's been updated, it states that nonprofit organizations may petition Salt Lake City to waive or defer fees for the development of affordable housing in Salt Lake City. So the fee waiver ordinance permits the CAN director to recommend granting a requested waiver if the project and the nonprofit organization provides housing for persons or families under 80% of the area median income. So before this request goes to the CAN director for review, housing stability staff have kind of put forward requested additional information from the developers to verify that they are eligible under code for these possible waivers and reviewed it with the attorney's office. So all that has occurred before it goes to the CAN director for their review. So an informal public hearing was then held on March 24th for the CAN director, Tammy Hunsaker, to review the applicants and allow for questions of the applicants. So from that meeting, both applicants were recommended for approval of the waivers. So the next step is, as it's outlined in code, is to then come before council for your consideration of these waivers. Next slide.
So we're just going to do a quick review of the projects, and then the developers for both of these are standing by, some of them online, some in the audience. So Alliance House at 1805 South Main Street, they, as Allison mentioned, they're eligible for a permit fee waiver for $40,365.52. The project plans to open in September of this year, so very shortly here. It will be 16 one-bedroom units for households at or below 30% AMI, so very deeply affordable, who are part of the organization's evidence-based vocation and social rehabilitation program. There is a deed restriction on file through Department of Workforce Services, as well as a regulatory agreement for Salt Lake City because this project received home funds. Collectively, these will ensure affordability of the property for 50 years. And then next slide, please. This is a rendering of the project as it should look when it opens next month, very shortly. We just wanted to give you a visual representation of what that should look like. And next slide, please. For First Up House at 44 North, 1000 West, that project commenced earlier this year, I believe March of 2025. They're eligible for a fee waiver in the amount of $153,639.06. This project is scheduled to be completed August of 2026 and move the first residents in September of 2026. This building will provide 67 new deeply affordable permanent supportive housing units with on-site supportive services. Those 67 units will include 63 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units set aside for households making 40% AMI or below. They also have a restrictive use agreement in place with Utah Housing Corporation for LIHTC funds that restricts this property to being affordable for 50 years. And can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. This is a rendering of what that project should look like upon final completion next fall. And then next slide, please. As we mentioned, if you have questions specific to the projects, the developers are here to answer those, and we'd be happy to turn the time over if you have questions about that or administrative questions that we might be able to answer.
Councilmember Mono. My questions are probably more administrative than specific to either development, but I don't remember ever voting on a fee or impact fee waiver. Is this new, or is there something specific about these two that it's coming before the council?
Hi, I was actually thinking that it may be helpful to clarify the administrative functions. So previously this task was per ordinance under the Housing Appeals Advisory Board, the HAB board. That board was, it's no longer a city board. And so when Title 18 updates came to the council for vacant and boarded buildings, this was part of that cleanup. We realized that it's kind of an inelegant solution, and so we are actually looking at combining the processes for building permit fee waivers and impact fee waivers, because they're two completely separate processes right now, dictated by separate sections of the code. So we really want to align the process to make it easier for developers and the city, so we don't have to do separate processes. So that will come before you in an ordinance update.
That'll be an ordinance change,
And-
but right now we're in a window
Yes,
where.
and with the impact fee exemption piece of the code, we're also looking at LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit, the income averaging changes that happened a few years ago. So we're trying to align with how the federal program operates. So there's a few changes that will be coming to you regarding that, and hopefully it will make this process easier.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm not wrong in not remembering that we haven't voted on this before, but because the HAB board no longer exists, we're the next step, and we'll make some changes. Basically, what I'm saying is I don't think that we need to get involved in all of these. If they're providing affordable housing, we have an ordinance saying they should have these waivers. Let's just.
Right, and code currently
Allow those.
gives me the authority to approve impact fee waivers, so. But not these,
Okay.
so we're fixing it.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And of course, I am supportive of the waivers for both of these projects. Very excited to have them come online. And I think they're two of the most important nonprofits working in our city. So I'm glad that they're expanding their services.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilmember Pui.
Quick note. I'm very grateful of what First Step House does for our community and to service our neighbors and so many spaces where there is not enough resources, not enough not enough housing and whatnot. I do struggles with the needs of the city and the needs to spread the peanut butter very thin, right? One of those projects is in my district next to Madsen Park, which is one of those parks that needs a lot of love, and by a lot of love I'm talking about a lot of money. And when we are, know that the burden is on this applicant alone, this is where impact fees usually go to in many ways, go help us, improve these amenities. I do think that I hope that we take in consideration that this park is going to be more important in the future for the residents. The success of this park is going to be connected to the success of those new neighbors. And I do want to make sure that we not hurting ourselves to try to improve this facility, these public spaces, by not having enough money in the pot to actually improve a park that we haven't put enough money for decades and decades. Generally, the fee waiver for the permitting seems very reasonable to me. Certainly, it seems like I don't have much authority on that, but the fee waiver for the impact fees, I hope that the administration will consider this needs, especially on a park that is next to them that needs a lot of infrastructure. Thank you.
Councilmember Petro.
I want to further amplify what my peer just said. The likelihood that we will get for-profit developers who do not ask for waivers decreases as we continue to concentrate the deeply affordable in one place, and we literally replicate ghettos that don't just harm the city's fabric and the people who live there, but also compromise the likelihood of recovery should neglect continue in their next door. Our neighbors cannot be expected to maintain public spaces in perpetuity with their own elbow grease. We've got to have a strategy eventually. This is yet another reason why we cannot continue the concentration of deeply affordable in one location. In case he didn't say it clear enough, you have to hear that repeatedly.
Other comments? Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 8, amending the annual compensation plan for all non-represented employees for FY 2025-26. We've got Michael Sanders, Council Policy Analyst, Dave Buchanan from Human Resources, Lori, remind me how to say your last name? Gayton. And David Salazar.
Okay. Good afternoon, Council. So today the administration is bringing forward a couple of amendments to the FY 25-26 compensation plan, which fall into 4 general categories. First, there's proposed some new holiday scheduling and leave payout policies for 911 communication supervisors, which would allow for holiday banking when scheduled to work. This is really similar to police sergeants and lieutenants. Second, there's updates to the city vacation leave accrual policy. This is intended to strengthen recruitment efforts by recognizing and allowing both public and private sector service credit upon hire if applicable. Third, there's updates to the departmental assignments for certain appointed positions to reflect transfers that were approved in the most recent budget. And fourth, there are some technical corrections to retirement contribution rates, which resolve some Scrivener's errors and bring us back into compliance with Utah retirement system rules. There's no public hearing required, and the goal for today is just for the council to ask questions and prepare for consideration of the ordinance at the September 2nd formal meeting.
All right. Any questions on this, council members? Councilmember Pui.
Just a quick question. One of the policy questions from the council talks about the picking up the full public safety employee contribution rather than a portion of it. Well, you know, what is the impact of such to financially for the city?
So the policy was, so the rule was already there. How it worked was in the past when we did, in 2024, all Tier 2 hybrid employees were required to pay into their pension. We made it as an equal amount across the board for public safety and for hybrid employees. And so they picked up their share just like we did, and the city picked up the balance. This year, as we moved forward, we put that into the policy or the compensation plan, showing that they would pick up the additional amount of the 0.80, which URS came back and said you can't lower it, so it has to stay the same. So the impact was already there for the city as far as what they were picking up, so that the public safety could not be lowered. It had to stay the same. So they're still paying their share of this 0.71 from last year, or 0.72 from last year, but they're not picking up the additional 11 cents for this year.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Looks like we're good. Thank you so much. All right. Our next agenda item is board appointment, but we're quite a bit ahead of schedule, about 20 minutes. So let's go. Yeah, let's do the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of announcements. The first is that the Metro Water Board, the Metro Water District Board has a vacancy. The board includes 5 council-appointed trustees. One of the trustees, Joan DeGiorgio, will complete her term at the end of this year with her final board meeting in December. We're asking council members if you have any recommendations for qualified candidates who might be interested in serving. The vacancy has a public notification process, so we will proceed with that process so that any member of the public could also apply, but obviously if you have any sort of interested constituents who might have expertise in that area, we would love candidates. The next is the Citizen Compensation Advisory Committee. One of the council's appointees, Jeff Worthington, his term has come to an end as of August. HR has provided staff with several potential applicants to fill his position. We will contact those applicants to see if they're interested in serving. The last time the council picked a appointee to the CCAC, the council convened a subcommittee of 2 to 3 council members to have more kind of in-depth conversations with the potential candidates. So we just weren't sure if you wanted to do that process again, and if you did, which council members would be interested in that subcommittee.
I thought it worked well. I mean, I think Sarah and I were on that committee for the compensation, and it seemed to work well. It kept it focused and timely. I'm not saying I'll do it again if no one else wants to, but just throwing it out there, I think it's a good process.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone else like to join Councilmember Dugan? It sounds like Councilmember Young and Councilmember Petro.
Member Petro, okay.
Great.
Anytime I can hang out with Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you. This next one relates to term limits on city boards and commissions. The practice has been that someone can fill a vacancy by serving a partial term, and that it would not count towards the 2-term limit that is currently in city code. It would require an ordinance change to make this effective for the CCAC. So is the council supportive of making this possible for an existing CCAC member? So that's question number 1. And so if you are, we'll proceed with getting an ordinance change. And then would the council would the council be interested in making a change to the ordinance to have that apply to all boards and commissions? So it would enable a person to essentially fill a vacancy and have that not count towards the 2-term limit. So they could do like 2.5 terms. Go ahead, Councilmember Mono has a question.
Well, okay, I've served on a couple of boards before I was a council member, and I don't remember them being like, your term is always going to come up in an even year or an odd year. It was just like, when there's a vacancy, you start your term and then it's for the next 4 years. So, do I understand that incorrectly?
I think that there are some boards that function like that. Most of the higher profile boards, to be honest. I think some of the more kind of practical boards, they kind of pull someone in to fill a vacancy before like the official appointment is made. So the way I see this, it would kind of standardize the process, which may actually help just in general.
Okay.
Yeah. And are they all 4 years boards and commissions or boards? No.
No, every board has a slightly different practice.
I would just say that, because we also have an ordinance too that says that someone can stay on
Serving
until
the
filled.
vacancy is filled, yes.
So I mean, a lot of times, we don't have a ton of people that are serving. I think it would make sense to, when we can, to err on the side of being more permissive, and as long as someone's willing to keep serving, that
Mr. Chair, I agree with you on that. We have, especially some of these boards are very technical, so they're having somebody that has that technical expertise to serve on the board, and if they're willing to serve the city for more than 8 years and they've been effective, I don't see why we should get strict. So I think we should be more permissive on that as well.
Thank you. Thanks for that feedback.
Councilmember
go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I would like to maybe insert something different into this process. I wonder if there is a way. For a couple of years now, I've been trying to get the district that if they're a member of, if they're a neighbor, a resident of Salt Lake City, that we know what district they live in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those appointments are not district appointments, but they are at large. I think it will be useful for us to have that information to know, that there are more voices from other areas, which is good. Which just allows us to keep that in consideration when searching for people. So I wonder if there is a way to include in whatever changes we're doing, that no matter if the appointment for either a board or a commission, even if it's not district specific, because we know what district they belong to, if they're district specific, that we know what district they live in.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, that I think would also be helpful. I try to ask people when they come just so that we
Right.
have an idea of where.
And I think that was previously included in transmittal materials. I think it inadvertently got left off in the latest iteration of the materials. And I know our staff has been working with the mayor's staff to put that information back in the just basic transmittal materials. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we need like an address, but it'd just be good to know.
Yeah.
Councilmember Petro.
I am fine. Like we said, it's a unique personality that even would accept something like this, considering it's volunteer service. And so it's not even, the whole city is a theoretical pool of people. It's not an actual pool of people. So I'm okay with being flexible on term limits, but I would like to see us push ourselves on how we publish and recruit to make sure that we're not inadvertently creating an echo chamber of people who enjoy this sort of service and self-select into it. I just, that's my only guardrail caution that I have. Boards and nonprofits face this issue too. So I'd love to see some forward-looking ways that we promote and recruit, just to be sure that as we extend terms, we're not inadvertently leaving out other talent.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay. And then I think our board appointment is here. So
Excellent.
Speaking of.
Okay. Oh, hi. I don't know why I thought you were going to be online, but come on down. Yes, speaking of, yes, have a seat. Yes, so Charlotte, you're applying to be on the library board. This is your opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, if you're comfortable telling us what district you're representing, and why you want to serve in this position. Okay.
It's a button.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
You got it.
It probably says Charlotte Dubiel. I actually just got married 2 weeks ago, so now it's Charlotte Constantino, and I apologize for missing the last meeting. I was on my honeymoon in Italy. I currently live in Rose Park, although I used to live in Federal Heights, so I've lived all over the city. And I have 3 kids. They go to the Jewish Community Center and Nibley Park Elementary. We're avid library users, and I'm so excited to be a part of the direction of it. I also, our branch is Day Riverside, and so there's going to be a lot of changes that impact Day Riverside, and I'm excited to be a part of how we shape the whole Jordan River Parkway corridor and connect it with the city.
Okay. Any questions for Charlotte? Councilmember Petro.
Thank you for representing our home so well, and thank you. We acknowledge that this is an unpaid sacrifice you're making for us, so thanks for loving our home and offering this up.
It's an opportunity more than a sacrifice.
Any other questions? All right. So what the process is we will place your name on our consent agenda items at our formal meeting, and you need not be present to win. But you're more than welcome to join us. So it's totally up to you, but there won't be another hearing. It'll just be that up or down vote. It's at the end of the meeting. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve Salt Lake City.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes. All right. We don't have anything else? Okay, great. So we will go ahead and adjourn, we have don't we have a closed session? Okay, yes, so never mind. We have, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, we will take a little break, but does anyone want to make a motion before we break? Nope. To enter into closed session.
For the purpose of purchase, exchange, or lease?
Yes. For pending or reasonably imminent litigation, and to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property and attorney-client matters.
Mr. Chair, I move that we enter closed session for 3 purposes: to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or sale of real property, to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, and to receive attorney-client to discuss attorney-client matters.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from Councilmember Lopez Chavez. We'll go ahead and roll call this. Councilmember Young.
Aye.
Petro.
Aye.
Mono.
Aye.
Hui.
Aye.
Lopez Chavez.
Aye.
Dugan.
Yes.
And I, and I am a yay. Let's go ahead and take just a 10-minute break. So everybody come back at 4:44. And that's exciting. And we will start the closed session then. Thank you.
Are we doing the closed session in here or in Canada? Here, okay.
Thank you.